burnout is basically exhaustion, feeling of being drained. That also goes together with cynicism and negativism, especially about work. One of the elements that reduce the risk of burnout is good support from a manager and from colleagues. Inner critic is super harsh. None of your friends, none of your family members will be as harsh as the inner critic. Work used to take 99% of my time all the time. But I think that I became a little bit more balanced, and I sometimes just simply prioritize my family and my closest ones.
Hello everybody and welcome to CEO Pitstop, the podcast where we discover people behind the titles. I'm Aušra Bijaminienė, leadership breakthrough mentor from Boutique Institute of Leadership, and I love helping people live happy and fulfilled professional lives. Today in CEO Pitstop we have different episode and different in many ways. We are discussing today the topic of burnout, and for this reason with me I have special guest Ona Juodkienė. Ona is CEO of Neuropulsas clinic. My warmest welcome, Ona.
Thanks, Aušra. Really pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting.
So before we go into this topic of burnout, let's talk about you. Who are you, Ona, in one sentence?
Oh wow, in one sentence. That's not easy. I would say I'm a curious and driven individual, interested in psychology and technology. So where I am today with Neuropulsas, it very well represents both areas. And I'm as well a mother and a family woman. So I think that's it about me.
You became CEO of Neuropulsas clinic recently. Until
Yes.
that, you spent 15 years, more than 15 years in the corporate world, in top positions of Senior Vice President, Chief Technology Officer in Barclays, Danske Bank, Bank of London,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So it was.
Tell us a bit more how all this happened. Where did you start and about this transition especially?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are now asking me the question, oh, so you changed your qualification, you changed your direction and things like that. I would say I haven't changed. I just went back to my roots because my education is in psychology. I have a master's in organizational psychology from Vilnius University, so this is where I started. But then somehow, accidentally, I ended up in IT field 15 years ago. Maybe not accidentally, of course, it was effort, but it was, I haven't dreamt of being a leader in IT. Some things fell in the right places, and this is where I ended up. I like being in IT a lot because it's a very dynamic field. I enjoyed being there because IT organizations are very much upfront and they drive a lot of change in general, not only in IT, not only in technology, but also in HR field, which is very unexpected. So a lot of other companies look up for IT organizations or banks for the best practices. So this is how I ended up there. I started there. It was pretty difficult at the very beginning because everything was very new terms, new things, new topics. But then I liked it a lot and I spent there 15 years.
You made
positions.
an impressive career, Ona. What was the engine behind?
My motivation to achieve outcomes. I mean, I'm motivated a lot by outcomes. So I think that's the engine. I was never willing to achieve career as such or achieve a certain career step as such, because some people, they dream about certain positions that, oh, I would like to be this or I would like to be that. I never dreamed about it. Every day I used to go to work with an idea that, okay, today this thing is not working and I want to make this work. So I'm very much outcome oriented, and I think that when other people notice that, oh, okay, that was in a bad situation and now it ended up in a much better space, I think this is where opportunities started coming up.
What is the most meaningful outcome or the most precious outcome for you out of these 15 years in IT, in the corporate world?
There are a lot, but one of them, I remember, it's not the most meaningful maybe, but it's the one that is the most precious for me. It's the insourcing of IT service desk from IBM. The reason why I remember this moment is because I got all the possible freedom from the leaders to do what I think is the right thing to do. So I remember the freedom as one of the important elements. Of course, I got, the target that by this day this needs to happen. This is the budget. That's it. Everything else was up to me how I want to do that. So that was amazing experience that I later on lacked a little bit. And we did that really well. We managed to insource the service desk much faster than expected. The quality was amazing. We saved around 40% of costs and expanded the operation by, I don't know, from basically business hours to 24/7, and the quality was much better. So I always remember this as a very nice period in my life. The team that I had at that time was an amazing team, very focused, very driven, and they also believed in that target and the objective as well. So really nice memories from that time.
But you had to assemble or hire this amazing team, most probably. You didn't inherit it as such.
Yeah. I had to hire the team. And the good thing was that, it was not my first days in IT. So I knew quite a few talents. And I was lucky to be able to hire them, the core team at that time. Right now, when I work in the field of medicine, which is totally different from IT, now I have to build my new network and new people and assemble the team. That is a little bit more difficult. But I think that when somebody believes in what they're doing, it's easier for them to also hire the team and inspire the team and make them believe the target and the objective as well.
When you hire people to your team, the talents, so what attributes you are searching for?
Motivation, I think, is the number one. I even remember one case when I hired one guy at the beginning of my career. He had, so I was, at that time, I was leading a call center in the market research company that was doing research in different languages, I think maybe 8 or 10 languages. And the guy whom I hired, he was supposed to work in an English-speaking team, but he had difficulty speaking English fluently. But he was so motivated. It was, it's even difficult to describe that in words. He was super engaged, super motivated in that interview. And I thought, okay, let's hire him and let's see what happens. So he did quite well on this English project, but then we had a very big Polish project, and he was a native Polish speaker. And he did such an amazing job in that space. I mean, he was amazing. And then, and then project after project, Polish or English, he again switched to English, very successful in English as well, because, he started speaking more and more fluently with practice. And I think it was one of these examples where a super motivated person can do a lot. So motivation is number one. Then, of course, special skills. Specialized competencies. Like, if you hire a developer and the developer doesn't know how to write code, that's a problem, right? So specialized competencies definitely is an important thing. If I cannot test these competencies myself, then, I ask for feedback, I search for feedback and insights from the others. Also, ability to collaborate, to work in the team, because no matter what, it doesn't matter whether it's an individual contributor's role or it's a leadership role, ability to collaborate is always important. I think these are the main things.
And now I want to build a bridge between motivation and the burnout. It might be kind of unexpected bridge, but there might be some connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's open up this page now.
Yeah. So burnout has 5 stages. And the first stage, honeymoon, it's very much about motivation and engagement and people willing to do a lot of things and take an extra mile, working extra hours, being passionate about what they're doing. So definitely, if they're not stopped in this particular stage, they can move further with all the other stages that eventually end up in chronic burnout and basically inability to do any work because they are just super exhausted and drained.
What is burnout, Ona? What's your definition of burnout?
So maybe I will not come up with a formal definition now, but burnout is basically exhaustion, feeling of being drained. That also goes together with cynicism and negativism, especially about work. Also withdrawing from different social activities, especially related to work. The sense of helplessness as well, the sense of that, a person doesn't have the power and ability to do things. Sometimes burnout is confused with depression, and it's very, very difficult to distinguish between the two states because sometimes they coexist. Sometimes the line is so thin between the two that it's difficult to distinguish that without professional help. And of course, the means how you deal with that state is different. That's why the diagnosis, the right diagnosis, is important.
So if I'm a manager and I have a team of 10 people, let's say, how do I recognize the burnout at early stage? What are the symptoms or the signs? Because this sense of helplessness is kind of internal, but what's the external expression of it?
I think for the managers, well, first of all, the whole organizational setup has to be right for the people not to get into that situation. And as I'm always saying, the result of burnout is made of two things: the personal predispositions and also the environment. So if the environment is right, then burnout might never happen. So for the managers, it's definitely important to ensure that the roles are clear, that there is, the ambiguity is not too high, that the objectives are clear, that the people have the resources and the freedom to do things that they are supposed to do in their roles, that they get the support from the colleagues and the manager, that the pay is fair as well, because sense of fairness or lack of sense of fairness also contributes to burnout. The early stages of burnout, definitely, you have to watch out for those who are super motivated, engaged, working, crazy amount of hours, always on. Definitely a manager has to have a conversation with the person about it and saying that, it's amazing what you're doing, but you have to take care of yourself and also have that balance in life, because sooner or later you will have to take rest, if not in small portions, then in one big portion. But at the same time, it's very easy to talk about that when you're comfortably sitting in the chair and saying, oh yeah, you have to take some rest, you have to relax. The reality is that the organizations sometimes are moving super fast, things are happening fast, and the managers are happy that people are working crazy hours, and whatever they are doing and things are happening, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, because they also get these demands from the top themselves.
Exactly. So definitely when you are on that treadmill, it's very difficult to stop and say that now we are relaxing and taking some time off or something. But I think for the managers, it's definitely very important to step back and always observe what's the price that they and the team are paying for getting these targets done. And if the price is too high, they definitely need to communicate up and either change something themselves. If they cannot change, then they need to communicate up and get what they need to support their teams. It's easier said than done. But otherwise, it might be difficult to stop burnout in the teams where there is a systematic burnout issue, where, it's not only one individual having burnout, but several people having burnout. Actually, the easiest way to notice burnout, especially when it's in later stages, is different emotional outbreaks, because there are changes in the brain done by burnout. So if an individual is burned out, the amygdala, the emotional center, is getting bigger, and it's producing more and more emotions, especially fear, but also the other emotions. And then the prefrontal cortex is thinning. And prefrontal cortex is kind of a policeman in the brain who is that is controlling our emotions. It's responsible for the decision making, even smaller decision making. I mean, kind of automatic decision making, whether I just shout out now or do I do something socially acceptable. So when the prefrontal cortex is thinning and the emotional centers are becoming bigger and the link between the two is getting not that strong, then there are a lot of emotional outbreaks. It can be crying, it can be, shouting at the other colleagues. And this is where the manager needs to have that conversation with the person and acknowledge that, I've seen a change in the behavior, what's going on, and have that conversation. It's not easy to have that conversation. Because
exactly, and that was my question. So if I am as a manager notice the change of behavior, because this emotional outbreak, it might be the change of behavior of somebody, especially if they are changing. So how to open the topic?
Regular one-to-ones. If you have a good relationship with the team members, first of all, you're asking how are you, what's going on, I've noticed this, I've noticed that, I can see that there is a change in behavior, is there anything I need to know? And just open up that topic, allow a person to speak, and also ask how can I help. But if you see that if you see that the person is very open about being overwhelmed and not being able to cope with the role, then definitely we can offer some space, see how we can reduce the workload, and also suggest the person to seek out for help as well outside the organization. But of course, in a supportive manner, and maybe not saying directly, maybe you should see a psychiatrist. But that's not the best way to do that. But we can say that I've noticed some of the things that are common to burnout, and you can seek out for help. And if there is anything I can do in seeking out for help, I'm here, and reach out to me.
And then if employee says, it's all good, no, it's like nothing, it's all good, but you see that things are changing and you see that it may be related to burnout,
I wouldn't push any person, because they also need to understand themselves what's going on, right? So we can have one conversation, 2 conversations, 3 conversations. After several conversations, I think that the person would make these conclusions themselves. But just having one conversation and pushing that person to come up with a conclusion that, yeah, maybe I have burnout and I should stop working and see a psychiatrist, it might not happen. So just regular conversations and not putting extra work on that person. I think that, and trying to use the other colleagues to balance that out a little bit and create some space for that person might help to at least him or her to realize where they are and what they should do next.
I can imagine how it happens in real life. Usually people who are top performers, high achievers, they deliver a lot. If they start facing the first stage of the burnout, so the performance declines. And then the manager most probably notices that, and there might be some dissatisfaction with this. And the manager, instead of asking, how are you, might demand even more, meaning upgrade the level or expect that the person will deliver the same level. And this could also lead to more burnout. So how?
Yeah, but then the problem is with the manager.
Exactly.
Yeah, the problem is with the manager, because if you're close to your team, you see these things, right? I wouldn't say that burnout always goes together with a decreased performance. Sometimes the performance is more or less on the same level because the person is still trying to push through. They themselves realize that they are doing less. It's taking more time for them to perform tasks. It's taking more time to make decisions. But not always performance declines to the level where managers will even notice. Because sometimes, a top performer, from delivering 150%, they can deliver 110% and everybody's still happy, right? But the top performer, him or herself, still feels that, okay, I used to do that much and now I'm just doing that much. But I think it's the manager's responsibility to listen to the team and understand what's going on. And if, at least from my experience, if I saw that a person used to be a top performer and delivering amazing results for 2, 3, 5 years, and now suddenly something happened, I will not go to that person and say, okay, you're not delivering. My first question would be, okay, so what's going on? Because I see that, that's delayed, and this one you didn't figure out how to do, and what's going on? Is there anything I need to know? And I've had some cases in my career where top performers didn't perform because they had some, symptoms, not burnout, other situations that were difficult in their lives. And we reached an agreement that, okay, I understand, I'm giving you the space, I'm supporting you. Your colleagues will do that. I'll do that. You take the time that you need to recover. At least do, the minimum that is supposed to be done in your role, and we'll take the rest.
Ona, from your experience, what can be other symptoms of burnout? I really want that the managers who are listening to us now, so they can really find indications at early stage of burnout. So what other symptoms?
Sarcasm, negativism, especially when you see a change in performance. So some people are sarcastic all the time, so that's not a change in performance. They are like that all the time. But if there is a change in performance, not in performance, but in behavior, and a person who used to be super positive and engaged suddenly becomes super sarcastic and negative, especially about work-related topics, that, oh my God, that's, eye rolling and all of these things, and negative comments all the time, definitely that's a conversation to have with the employee and understand, what's going on.
Would somebody come to the manager, like from your experience, would somebody come and tell you that, well, I'm on the edge of burnout? Or you as a manager should not expect this? Normally you should be more proactive and see the situation.
It depends upon the relationship, I guess. If the relationship is good enough and close enough, definitely people will share what they feel. If the relationship is not that close, they will not. But very often, I think people, it's the trend that, a trend in general in society, that it's super great to be busy and do a lot of things. And because of that trend, people don't want to talk about burnout in general and say that, yeah, I cannot push through anymore.
It's
And they
a
are
sign
trying
of
to push
weakness.
through.
If I'm not busy,
Yeah,
if I'm not
exactly.
able, so I'm weak.
Yeah, exactly. That's the general thinking in the society, and that's why it takes courage for the people to go to the manager and say that I cannot take that anymore, and I'm drained and I need help. Some people do that. Some people still try to push through. Some people try to rationalize and say that, yeah, maybe it's just my thoughts. Maybe I just need to think differently, and I need to breathe more and do more yoga, and things will fall in places. But they push through for some time, and then the moment comes when they cannot do that anymore.
What is the consequence for the business of burnout cases?
One of the things is that it's like a domino effect. One person burns out, then goes on a leave, then the other ones take on that work, then the others burn out, and then it's kind of a domino effect. So definitely it impacts results, or it impacts other colleagues. And the research is showing that it's from 50 to 200% of annual salary to replace a burned out employee, to replace a good employee in general, right? And usually people who are very responsible, very driven, they tend to get burnout. So that's not good for the company, because these are the people whom companies usually want.
But also I think that morale of the team, if you see somebody, your colleague, burned out, and then the next colleague in the same team burned out, and then you are, oh, what's going on? Do I really want to belong to this team? Do I want to continue? So this might also be dilemmas in heads of people who are like in the same team.
Absolutely.
But for me, it all comes down to building good relationship in the team. Because as a manager, if you have good relationship, you feel your people.
Yeah.
You know how they are doing, you know their ups and downs, and then it's a bit easier to notice all these early signs of burnout
Yeah, that's true. I think in general, one of the elements that reduce the risk of burnout is good support from the manager and from the colleagues. But sometimes even that doesn't help.
But what helps if
What
I'm an
helps?
employer now and listening to us discussing, so what should I do in order to prevent burnout?
So now I'm talking as an employee when I'm feeling the best. So it's quite individual and personal. It might be different for other people. But for me, for example, workload is not an issue. I can work a lot because I love working in general.
It fuels you.
But
the more you work, the more outcomes you create.
yeah, but I think the biggest thing for me is freedom. I need to have the freedom to make decisions, get the resources that I need to get. I need clarity in roles, who is responsible for what. I need a clear target, and that's it. There is no way I will burn out. And I could do crazy amount of things and I will not burn out if I have the freedom to choose, have the right resources, the right amount of resources. I mean, the time and the people and whoever is needed. Okay, time might be a problem sometimes because sometimes the targets are stretched, so I'm fine with that. The things that I'm covering, they are also on the general list for burnout prevention from organizational side. But I'm sharing now from my personal perspective because I think it's better to talk from a personal perspective rather than theoretically, right? For some people, it's different. For some people, it's workload that is killing them. And the freedom might even kill them because it's too difficult for them to make the decisions, right? So I think it's very individual based on the person. For me, freedom is needed for me not to burn out.
And then we also go back to this one-on-ones and building relationship because you have to understand your people in order to know what drives them, what drains them. So you have to really know them as a manager, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And the other important thing to mention, it is common to think that burnout can happen only when people have too much work, but sometimes it can happen when they are bored as well. So if you have someone who has great potential, can do a lot of things, and you put them in the box with no decision making, no interest in work, they can also burn out just because of boredom. That sounds a bit crazy.
And another thing that I'm thinking now, sitting here and being in leadership roles for many years, as a manager, as a leader, you have to take care of your people. You have to know how they are doing. You have to know what motivates them. And on the other hand, you have to deliver, and you have demanding managers from the above. For the managers, the risk of burnout, maybe it can be even higher.
Yeah,
Have you noticed this?
Absolutely.
Because of the push and demands and expectations and so many things going on.
Absolutely. And I feel a huge respect to all my former managers because I've seen them in super difficult positions where they have to deliver on very challenging targets and with limited resources. So huge respect to all of them. I've learned a lot from all of my former managers, actually. And I think that managers have a huge risk because exactly what you're saying is right. They have challenging targets. They have, huge complexity, multiple tasks, multiple things to think about, risks. The difference is that the managers, they also have the influence and the power to change things. So I think at some point it's important just to step back and see, is it really something that we as a team need to do? Or maybe we can do, skip that or don't do that or do that slower. But again, it's a balance that is very difficult to find because managers, high achieving managers, they are hired specifically to implement some challenging things in short period of time. And if they go back and say, you know what, we are not able to deliver this or that, and we need to, I don't know, slower down, then they are kind of, okay, so what are you doing here?
Exactly.
They might get this question.
Exactly.
Again, it's a balance.
So instead of slowing down, they have to do something within current challenges to stay strong and to be able to deliver.
Prioritize, basically prioritize and say, if you need us to do this, we will not do that. But again, it's easier said than done.
What are other ways how to prevent burnout? For me as a manager, what should I do or what could I do to prevent the burning out myself in this challenging role?
Again, I can say what behaviors I noticed in my managers that were helpful for me as an employee. I love when managers make decisions fast, because that's super helpful for the team. Because sometimes because I have my team as well of several hundred people, and if decisions are not made at the top, then I cannot perform on my end, and we are kind of sitting ready and not being able to move forward. So fast decision making, then clarity in the roles, who is doing what, and limiting the amount of meetings, especially in big corporates. I think that's a big problem. 6-hour meetings, 5-hour meetings, several hundred people, half of them are sleeping in that meeting. So especially in corporates, I think there need to be clear roles on who is attending what meetings and why they are doing that and what's the value in it.
To add to this list, I think what other things can work from my experience, when you start hiring people stronger than you, smarter than you in your team as a manager, it helps a lot. And myself as a manager, I shouldn't be afraid to hire smart people. It's challenging to lead them, but they deliver a lot. So you don't have to be everywhere yourself.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say it's challenging to lead smart people or smarter people than you are. I used to have a lot of people in my team who were much, much smarter than me. And even now, we are hiring medical doctors with doctor degrees and, 30 plus experience in medical field.
And you are coming from IT to
yeah,
this
and I'm
business
totally
as
new
CEO.
to it, but managers always have to hire as smart people as they can get in the market, and because that's the only way to be successful, and that's the only way exactly not to get burned out yourself, or not to fail. But I think it's also important to communicate to the team, and this is what I usually do. This is where you are best at, and this is where I am best at. I can get the funding, I can solve the problems.
And relax that you
get
as
the
a
resources.
manager do not know something, so that's all good. That's
Absolutely.
why you have the team.
Yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't be a problem for the manager to admit that they are not the smartest people on earth and that they know everything. But the team also needs to feel that manager is at least good at managerial competencies, and they are able to lead the team, show the direction, get the resources, get the problems resolved. And it's important for the team to feel that the manager is there, that the leader is there, and that they are able to do these things, and that the trust is between the both
You
parties.
mentioned fast decision making. So for some people it comes naturally. It's I just know this or that. But for others it's not that natural. So maybe this is also about training and developing some skills.
Yeah, I think it's general competencies that managers definitely need to develop.
What other competencies would help?
Problem solving, conflict management, collaboration, communication. Definitely these are the things that are important. Leadership in general. So when we're talking about leaders, it's not only about formal leadership. It's also about being able to communicate, present yourself, and it's important for any individual. It's not... thought leadership is also important. You can have a technical employee who is doing the thought leadership and, creating that space where they are directing the team towards, newest technologies and innovation and doing this thought leadership. So it's also leadership, right? It's not only formal leader of the team.
This episode carries a little extra calm thanks to Vytautas Mineral Spa in Birštonas, Lithuania, a place to recharge, reconnect, and find the balance, something every leader needs. We discussed quite many ways how organization can prevent burnout, and now we are discussing trainings as also a measure to prevent burnout, right? So if I'm an HR person and I'm working on training budget, so conflict solving skills, decision making, leadership skills in general, enhancing leadership skills can also prevent burnout. It's not just you will grow people and develop and they will be able to deliver at their best, but you will also prevent burnout as a consequence.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm saying, burnout is not always a result of work and workload. If we look at the individual and personal perspective, it's also about what is going on in your head. And if you cannot deal with the thoughts and with the whole thought train that is going on and not stopping all the time, that also might be a problem. So cognitive behavior therapy is talking a lot about these techniques, how you can stop that thought train.
So share with us some, if these are not too complex. So what are these techniques?
Just I'm just scratching the surface, but some people are saying that, oh, I'm self-reflecting a lot. I'm reflecting a lot and I like reflection. But when I start digging deeper, I always ask, are you self-reflecting or are you ruminating or are you feeling anxiety?
What's the
And
difference
that's the
between?
difference.
Okay.
Because self-reflection is something that is action-oriented and is productive. And usually you think about recent events or the things that will happen in the nearest future, and then you think, okay, I did this that way, maybe I should do that differently, what I'm going to do next time to prevent that from happening. What resources I have internally, what are external resources who can help me next time. And this is where you analyze the situation in a productive manner to change your behavior, change your environment or whatever is needed to change for you not to get into a bad situation next time. If you are ruminating, then you're thinking about the past in an unproductive way. So for example, you're giving a speech, you did a mistake, and then, oh my God, what did I do,
And you are wasting
yeah,
hours and
exactly.
days.
I'm stupid, and energy, and especially energy. You're wasting your energy. You can just get tired just by sitting on a sofa and saying, "Oh, I'm stupid. I did that mistake. Oh my God, how do I look now?" Or they will fire me and things like that.
For me, it sounds like inner critic is doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then, anxiety is the same thing. You just think about the future. And some people are, okay, I don't have the job. What's going to happen? I will not have what to eat. And then they think of a lot of catastrophic scenarios that are killing them as well. And they're kind of frozen and thinking about these things. They are not doing any work, but they are getting tired just because of these thoughts. So the main thing that everybody needs to ask if they have that, thought mechanism going on, first of all, you need to ask yourself, is it productive what I'm doing now? If it's not, then just stop what you're doing now. I mean, even physically, stop the thoughts and just go and do something else, switch to something new, and focus on the things what you can change or you cannot change, and either accept them or do something productive. But that's just scratching the surface.
I love this because now we are going into my favorite topic of self-leadership.
Yeah.
It's very much about self-leadership, stopping
Absolutely.
yourself and asking yourself a question, what I'm doing now. Am I creating something productive? Is it something that brings me new ideas and new ways of doing things in the future? Or I'm just having inner dialogue with my inner critic that doesn't let us anywhere.
And inner critic is super harsh. I mean, none of your friends, none of your family members will be as harsh as the inner critic.
Yeah. Are there any other ways how to silence this inner dialogue that is not productive at all?
So cognitive behavior therapy techniques, there are multiple of them, thought registering sheets in one or the other way. You can register the thought, how you felt, what are the evidence for it, what are the evidence against it.
But that's a lot of work itself.
But it's a
you need
skill.
time for that. You need Pitstop for that.
But it's just a few minutes, right? Just to register. And and then you find an alternative thought, because very often we think of the worst case scenarios because our instincts kick in, and they, in order to protect us, they think of the worst case scenarios. But the reality is usually not black or white. It is somewhere in between, right? So when you write that down and you start thinking about alternative scenarios, that helps to calm down the anxiety in general. Some of my professors are saying that you have to fill in like 100 sheets thought registration sheets to be good at it. Maybe, but at the same time, as I'm studying cognitive behavior therapy right now, I realize that even without writing down, every time when some kind of stressor hits me, I start thinking in that matter, okay, that's the worst case scenario, that's the best scenario, maybe none of these will happen, okay, that's the realistic one. And I started applying that even without writing down. But in general, it is a skill and you have to develop that skill. It's not happening automatically. And even if you know that, not necessarily you will apply that, because subconscious is super powerful, right? And our habits are super powerful. So it's so difficult to switch on that thinking. So basically, the way you can activate your prefrontal cortex, you can count something very difficult, for example. You can count in reverse order, or you can count, I don't know, every 8 digit or something, because this is when you start thinking, and this is where the prefrontal cortex kicks in, and then you get into less, instinctive and emotional thinking. And then you can do the thought registration.
I'm listening to you, and for me, it's like a lot of work, inner work, and just the question jumps in my head now. Where is the boundary between overthinking and self-analysis work?
So thought registration is definitely not overthinking. It's and I think just writing that down keeps your head clear. So instead of spending 1 or 2 hours just running that in your head, you just sit down for 5 minutes, register, and I don't know, I give 90% you will forget that for some time. And you will be free of these thoughts, and you will be effective in your work. You can just try it.
I do a lot of this. I do a
Okay.
lot of writing, because for
Yeah.
me it's also kind of therapy, because this handwriting it's
absolutely.
nice therapy
Yeah,
that you can do
absolutely.
for yourself. I do gratitude journal, and I write gratitude journal for many, many years now. I like physical writing, so I have a lot of gratitude journals collected. Maybe one day I will open them and do something with them. I don't know.
Nice. Very nice.
But I know what you mean. Let's talk a bit about lifestyle. What other things can prevent burnout, like hobbies, nature? What would you advise?
Being physically active is important. Absolutely.
And there is a reason for that, right? So can you
Yeah.
please elaborate a bit more on
So,
that?
so when there is a stressor in real world, I don't know, in nature, for example, usually our body activates for fight or flight response. So there is muscle tension, cortisol increases, and normally we are either fighting the stressor or the aggressor, or we are running away. And during that physical activity, cortisol goes down, then endorphins are released, and we go into that homeostasis stage back. When there is a stress in office environment, usually we are sitting on a chair comfortably, getting an email that might be super stressful for one or the other reason. We have to behave properly. We cannot just, run or shout or, punch anyone, right? So we are sitting calmly with all our cortisol in our body, given that we are not taking any physical activity, because we cannot, because we are sitting in meetings and writing emails back and, answering the calls or whatever needs to be done in the office. Cortisol levels keep building up, and we never go back into that normal stage in our bodies. We still have, muscle tension and cortisol levels quite high. And at least having some physical activity later in the day, it helps at least a little bit. Of course, it's later than
Because
right
when you are
after.
in the office sitting all the day, so it's difficult. Or you can have walking meetings. Would it help to go for a walk for
I
a
think it's
meeting?
very good to go out for a walk if you get that stressful email, and instead of just replying immediately, just go out for a walk, because that releases, in general, it calms your body down, and then you can go back and respond or, make decisions what you're going to do with it. But physical activity in general is good. It's good for mental health and physical health, and I'm not going to go into details here because there is a lot of loads of material online on that. Being in nature is very important. I think people are so far away from their natural lifestyles now because we don't spend time in nature at all. We just sit in the offices, look at the screens all the time, and it's normal that, if you're doing totally different from what you're, used to do, or your ancestors used to do ages ago, it's natural that our bodies react in one or the other way. Being in nature is one of the best anti-stressors in general.
And it's free.
It's free,
You
exactly.
shouldn't pay money for that, at least
Exactly,
in some
exactly.
countries where the nature is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Arts, enjoying art is also one of the things that are doing a good thing for our brain as well.
Are there any personal attributes of people who are more prone to burnout?
Absolutely. High
What are
standards,
these?
perfectionism, imposter syndrome, these things contribute to that. Proneness to depression or anxiety. Usually these are empathetic, sensitive people with very high standards.
Are there any occupational trends?
Yes, there are. Usually these are people who who work with people a lot, or who work with some things that that naturally people avoid. So for example, firefighters, they have to go into fire, which normally you wouldn't do, right, if it wasn't your occupation. But if you take the top 5 occupations, I'm not sure whether I remember all of them, but healthcare professionals, then first line responders like policemen and firefighters, teachers, social workers, and actually IT professionals are also among the top 5. But it depends, there are different lists. But usually healthcare workers and teachers are 100% one of these most prone to burnout.
So you yourself, you were in IT zone for 15
Yeah.
years. I believe you've seen many cases. What was your own lowest point at your career? Maybe not in terms of burnout, but just in general.
The most difficult, or?
Yeah.
The most difficult, I think, but it was not only work, it was also personal side of things. So, at the time when I was leading IT operations with an international team, and IT operations have the specifics where, if anything happens in the middle of the night, you just drop everything and you go and sit in crisis calls for hours, sometimes even 20 hours if needed. And I was going through divorce at that time. So I had a 3-year-old daughter going through divorce. That's not always a nice experience to be in. And also I had a demanding role with a lot of business trips, night calls, weekend calls, even Christmas calls. So that was difficult. It was difficult because of lack of support. It was difficult because I still had to be strong for my daughter. I had to be there for her, but at the same time I had some challenging responsibilities where I couldn't just say, sorry, the board leaders, or, the board members of the board, sorry, I will not attend that call because, my daughter is crying somewhere. So
You were holding very senior position
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Huge responsibility. What was your lifesaver?
Reaching out for support in general. I realized that I will not do that alone. There was not much support, but even hiring people can be also support. So getting the nanny, someone who is cleaning your home, is already a big help. So this is what I did.
Any other support?
There were a couple of people, my cousin, my sister.
I love the saying that we have difficult moments in our lives in order to understand others better.
Yeah, that's a nice saying. And it's I'm sometimes having conversations with my daughter. So now she's 12, almost 12 years old. And once she had a very difficult day at school, and she cried a lot and said, oh my God, that I don't know, something happened between the classmates. And then I said to her that, if you would eat only cake, sweet cake all the time, would you be happy? And she's like, oh no, it's horrible to eat just sweet cake. So sometimes you have to have that salt and pepper, and sometimes you have sweetness, and there has to be different kind of things in your life to be happy and to be fulfilled. And sometimes that salt and pepper. So she started laughing a lot, and every day now we are discussing, okay, so what was the salt and pepper and what was your honey or sweetness or whatever during today. And then she is very, now she's talking about these things in a totally different mood.
It sounds like you have a very good relationship with your daughter.
I hope so. I think so, and I hope so, but I think parents see the relationship from a different perspective. I hope that she also sees that as a nice relationship. I hope so.
You have invested a lot into that.
Yes. And she as well. I think both of us, we spend quality time together, and we both invest in that relationship a lot. And I mean, I feel so much love from her. That's amazing.
Your biggest supporter.
Absolutely.
You are lucky.
Mm-hmm.
From what you are telling, at that time you had a lot on your plate, including personal stuff that is not ordinary and very, very draining. Mm-hmm. But I believe that nobody noticed that because you were delivering at your best. And I know you for quite many years, and I know how energetic you are and how powerful you are in delivering things. And you used to thrive in big environments. And now you are in the clinics. You are CEO of the clinics. It's still very new, and you are establishing this with your partner. So tell me about this transition, how it happened, and how your professional life looks now.
So the transition was expected and unexpected, I would say. Psychology was always part of my life, even when I was in IT. I still read a lot of books. I was attending psychotherapy myself because I wanted to know myself better, especially after divorce, because very often people jump from one relationship to the other and then they repeat the same thing. And after divorce, I decided to spend some time to reflect and understand my patterns of behavior so that I could create a nice relationship. And I'm glad I succeeded finally, hopefully.
Congratulations, I'm very, very happy for you.
But the transition from IT to psychology, I was dreaming about moving back to psychology when I'm 45 or something like that. I was thinking about psychotherapy. Studying psychotherapy and then becoming a psychotherapist, that was always part of my dreams, but it happened faster because Juste Shidluskaite, who used to be my university friend, she lived in Belgium and in the Netherlands for quite some time, but we used to catch up. And last year, we had a conversation about mental health care in Lithuania in general, where we are at with it. It was just a friend's chat, you know. And then she told me about neuromodulation clinics and that they are super popular in Belgium and in the Netherlands. And we had that discussion about neuromodulation, and we thought, oh, maybe it's an amazing opportunity to have such a clinic in Lithuania as well. At that time, it was like more kind of unrealistic dream.
And sounds like a combination between psychology and technology.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very nice combination of innovation and psychology. Our key idea with the Neuropulsas clinic is to ensure high quality psychotherapy, high quality psychiatry, high quality neurology, but also suggest something that is not easily available in Lithuania, which is non-invasive neuromodulation. Specifically, we are focusing on transcranial magnetic stimulation of the brain, which is a great replacement of medicine, especially in depression treatment of anxiety, ADHD, OCD, even addictions, and even pain disorders.
It sounds very scientific for me. Can you translate, please, into language that everybody understand? So, what do we get coming to your clinic, especially on this non-invasive neuromodulation?
So, anyone who is experiencing something like depression, or sometimes a person might not know whether they have depression or not, but they have some emotional difficulties or they feel pain, because I'm talking about pain as well, because we have this nice combination of neurology and mental health in our clinic. So we have some pain patients as well. So if someone is feeling pain that is not related to an injury or something, but it's usually pain coming from a central nervous system. And then if someone has emotional difficulties in life, anxiety, depression, or they don't know whether they have that or not, they can come to our clinic. We do an assessment. that is based on standardized methodologies, and also, conversation with a psychiatrist or neurologist, and also neurological psychiatrist assessment. And then based on the conclusions, we come up with a individual plan, treatment plan for that person. Transcranial magnetic stimulation can be one of the options in case of depression, OCD, ADHD, or anxiety. Not necessarily for everybody, but especially for people who don't want to have medication, who cannot have medication for one or the other reason. For example, women with postpartum depression who are breastfeeding their babies, and people who don't want to have the side effects of all the medication, because if you're taking medication to treat depression, there might be different negative side effects like weight changes, sexual dysfunction, numbness. So there are a lot of things that people don't want to have when treating this depression with medication. And then the stimulation helps to get the treatment, which is even more effective than medication based on scientific research. And the way it works, you're just sitting in a comfortable chair. There is a coil attached to your head in a certain place of the head, depending, what kind of disorder you're having. And then there is a certain protocol that is, put on that medical device. And then you're getting stimulation directly to your brain. So medication is also impacting your brain activity, but in a chemical way, and it impacts your whole body. With TMS, or transcranial magnetic stimulation, the brain is impacted directly, and the brain activity is changed directly by impacting the brain with magnetic impulses.
Wonderful. I ask you to bring one thing to the podcast that represents you. Mm-hmm. And I see you brought a book.
Definitely, it's a book.
I know that
with a brain on it.
Yeah, I know that you're reading a lot.
Well, maybe not that much anymore because I'm super busy now. But I brought this book because it challenges Descartes' idea about dualism in rational thinking and emotion. Antonio Damasio is presenting a set of research in this book where it clearly demonstrates that emotions take a very important part in decision making. The reason I'm talking about is because I had a lot of discussions with a lot of people on that topic, and very often I hear, I'm always rational in my decision making. Emotions cannot be part of decision making. We cannot be emotional. And that is not true, because emotions play a very important part in decision making process. And basically, a decision itself cannot happen without emotions. So we are not getting a direction. And people who tend to suppress their emotions, who ignore their emotions, they basically impair their decision-making process in general. So that's something to think about.
How it relates to you?
Very clearly, I involve emotions in every decision I'm making, and I try to turn inside myself and understand what physical, what physical reactions I have in my body, how I feel about one or the other thing. And if I feel that something is wrong, like if I have a gut feeling, I trust my gut feeling a lot. If I feel that this is not the right way to move forward, I will just make that decision based on my gut feeling, even if sometimes rational thinking is a little bit against that.
And my last question to you today, what you would advise to 20-year-old Ona if you could have this possibility?
Main advice would be not to rush and be more balanced, because work used to take 99% of my time all the time. It was one of the most important parts of my life all the time. It is still a very important part of my life, and thanks to my family and my partner and my daughter and my friends who understand that. But I think that I became a little bit more balanced, and I sometimes just simply prioritize my family and my closest ones if I need to. So I think for my younger self, I would advise to play more, be more spontaneous, spend less time at work.
Thank you so much. I feel this calmness,
Thank you,
but
Aušra.
also the depth.
Thanks, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Ona. I wish you and the clinics all the best.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There is much more to come.